I realized when I moved down here that, like, when I said I was from IU, people are like, what's that? Because to me, everybody knew IU up in Indiana because that's what it was. So it's Indiana University. And I actually started Tableau at IU. When I came back from studying abroad in 2015, I didn't land an internship with any companies because I wasn't sure when I was coming back. And so I just I gave tours on the campus, so I asked the guy that was over all the tour guides, I said, hey, you guys probably have some data somewhere. I was like, is there some type of role where I could get in and play with data? And so he sent me to our enrollment office, and so I took an internship in the summer. It was only like 15 hours a week, so it wasn't much, and I actually tried to get on as a volunteer, but they said they couldn't accept my work without paying me, so that was nice. But yeah, so that's where I walked in the door and they handed me, or they didn't really hand me, it was on the computer, but they gave me a Tableau workbook and said, here, learn this and help us build out this Tableau workbook that we started on, because they really didn't have time to work on it. So I just spent the summer teaching myself Tableau. So that's where I got my start. And then after graduation, I took a job with General Motors. They're the IT center up in Roswell. I don't know if you guys know that location or not. But I worked there for 2 years. And when I first started, I actually worked under a guy named Ken Black, who most people in here might know who that is. But he's an Alteryx ace, and I think he was just named Tableau Zen Master this year. And that's where I really advanced my Tableau skills, was under him. I worked under him for about a year and then still worked with him, and he mentored me for another year there at GM. And I took my new job at CRH back in June of 2018. I like all the Junes for some reason. And then I also like to joke that I like to work for companies with white letters in the logos, I guess. So if you got white letters and you want me, yeah. If anybody knows the Super Bowls, there might be a chance that you recognize this. I have no idea, but this is the only really claim to fame I can have in the Tableau and Alteryx world. I created this dashboard after I was really salty from losing when I bet on the Super Bowl squares in the Super Bowl where the Falcons and Patriots played. And so it inspired me to go back and look into all the previous Super Bowls and which Super Bowl squares had paid out the most. And so this is just kind of, this link takes me to, if that works. I'm not sure if you guys aren't seeing that. So let me back out of the presentation. Okay, so before the Eagles Patriots Super Bowl, sorry, I'm outdated, I haven't updated my dashboard yet, but before that, Alteryx actually found my article and posted about it, where I talked about using Tableau and Alteryx to bet on the Super Bowls, because the way the Super Bowl squares game is supposed to work is you guys just randomly get assigned squares. But the way it worked the year I played was you first come, first serve. And so I found the cheat sheet for if you do get to do first come, first serve. And then all of that is in here. And again, if you want the links, come to me and I can give you all this. But I just want to go to the Tableau public site here, where you get all this and you can click and interact with it, which is kind of cool. And the 0-0 square paid out again this year. So this one is definitely the one that, if you get lucky enough to get the 0-0 square, you might make some money. Yeah, so what I really come to talk about, though, is the viz and tooltips. So let me open that up here. Okay. And so I just want to start. This is, if anybody wants to follow along, I'm just using the Superstore data that comes with Tableau. And what I'm going to show you, the ideas behind the visuals are pretty basic, but what you can do with it becomes pretty powerful. And so this first one is just showing sales versus profit by state. And when you hover over, you get to see the top 3 cities by profit and the bottom 3 cities by profit. And you see as it moves along, you see the cities within there. And so I want to show you a little bit about how that how you can build that. And before I do that, I just want to show you what this actually works like. Where the tooltip filters kind of work like action filters on a dashboard. As you can see, I've got the sheets here, and you see the top 3 cities and bottom 3 cities. And as you hover over, those kind of change as you go over by state, and that's what's being filtered on is the state. So that's kind of how the tooltip filters work and the vises within the tooltips. So let me go back here, and I will recreate this. So sales. If I go too fast, let me know. Let's see. State. Okay, so this is how I started. I just said sales by profit and put the state out on detail, so you get your splitting up of all the states here. And then for the color, I just chose profit ratio. And again, it was very simple with this. I just picked calculations and stuff that already existed. And then, cool trick, if anybody wants to use the full color range, you just have to go in here and click that. And so that's how I started. And then when you want the visuals, you have to create those worksheets. And so I did I wanted to see the cities within those states when you hover over. And so you bring out the cities, and then I want to see the profit per city, and that says the bar. And then I sorted it. And so what that allows me to do is that's how you can get the top 3 or bottom 3. And so you have to duplicate this and just sort this inversely. And so now I've got this one sorted top to bottom, and this one bottom to top by profit. And then you can create a parameter. I'm sure most of you probably know what a top in is, but by show of hands, who knows what a top in filter is? Okay, so we get about half and half. Okay, so the top in allows you to, as I mentioned before, I just showed top 3. It allows you to grab the top of whatever measure you're looking at. And so how I always create that is the built-in table calculation index. Ooh, what happened there? There we go. Okay, try to make the font bigger and everything goes crazy. Okay, so I just do the index, which when you drop out index on here, it just lists them. So New York City is 1, LA's 2, Seattle's 3, and it just continues to go down. And then I say that's less than or equal to the parameter top in, which I have a top in parameter that can range from 3 to 7, and you can go up or down by 1. So that's how that's working behind the scenes. And so if I drop that calculation to the filters and say true, I'm only seeing the top 3. And so if I show that parameter control, you can edit it to 4, 5, 6, and then it just adjusts like that. And then the same goes for the bottom. If you drop out the index on this, even though it's called top in, you're going to see the bottom here, because it's based off the index function. And so here you see the bottom 3 as well. And now to get these into the tooltip, let me just go ahead and add some text. So you go back to your original sheet here, and you go into the tooltip, and you do insert sheets, and then go down to the sheets you want to insert into the tooltip. For this one, it's sheet 11 and sheet 11-2. And then here's how it filters. There's this part here that says what it's filtering on. And so this is where you can adjust and where you have the power to have the flexibility of adjusting what you're filtering on the target sheet. So for us, I want to filter the cities by the state. And so now you can already see here, I've got the top 3 profit cities in New York showing up. Now I've got the top 3 in California. And then to add the other one, you just come in underneath. And you add that one in there. And so now you see both. And so what I have done in the original one is there's a lot more formatting going on with the colors. And I colored the worksheet so it's easier to see. And then you can put a title above the sheets. It's just typing it in. I just say top, whatever the parameter is, cities by profit. So if I change this again like we saw before, now I'm seeing the top and bottom 4 for each city there. Does anybody have any questions on that at all? Okay. All right. So, is everybody familiar with the set actions that just came out in the new Tableau release? Okay, so there's these new things that you're able to do with set actions. And with set actions, I'm able to not just zoom in. So I have this cool feature where you can zoom in on the states in like if you get a lot of clusters here. And with set actions, I'm able to click the state and it will highlight that dot within that zoomed in graphic. And so like over here where we get a lot, you can click around these dots and see where those states are actually falling. Because I know when you got them all clustered there, it's really hard to tell. So I've found that as a helpful feature, and I hope you guys might as well. And we'll also dive in and show you how to do this too. I'm just going to duplicate this. That graphic is built the exact same way here. And so from here, you would need to create the sheet again. So you duplicate the sheet you already have. And then on this one, you have to edit the axis so that it doesn't include 0. Okay. So if I go... All right, so to do this, I had to create the calculation for state profit and or fixed calculations for state profit bin and state sales bin so that you can get kind of the grid that you zoom in on because otherwise it would just show you the whole graphic. And so let me go back here and show you how I did that. So here's where, remember when I said you have the choice of choosing your filter. That's what I'm filtering on is state profit bin and state sales bin. And how I created that was the fixed calculations in Tableau, where I just fixed the profit to the states. And then I did the same thing with sales here. And then from those, you can do the Tableau binning. So you just come here and do create bin. And you can choose a bin size or go with the suggested. You can also end up making this a parameter as well. So just for this sake, I just had created a random number. So I got 4,000 as the bin on profit. And so when you zoom in, you're only going to see the ones that are falling in the same bins as your current hover. So with New York out here, New York's the only one that falls in the bin, so that one's not very helpful. But with all the ones clustered down here, those are the ones that fall within that 4,000, and I think the sales bin was 20,000. So that's how that came about. But in order to get the highlighting, I had to create a set action. So I just created a state set. So you just go to that state field up here, and then you just do create, kind of like I just did create bin. And then you can create a set. And so with that, I have a set action on this worksheet. Right here, I pick the superstore and the state set. And what this does is whenever you click on the states, like I showed you, it then puts that state in the set. And then from there, that adds it to the set, and then I created a calculation for labeling, which I can show you. And then whenever you unclick it, it just removes all the values from the set. So right now, when you hover over, there's nothing in the set. If I click on Georgia, Georgia's now there. If I highlight both Georgia and Indiana, they both are highlighted there. So back to creating that, if you have to change this here to sorry, I forgot the one critical detail. You gotta put them in the detail. So now they're available for you to insert into your filters. And you can separate the filters with commas. That's sheet 11. If you don't move it to detail, you can't actually filter on what you inserted the filter to be. Because there, now you can see that it's updating with the bends. And then how you get the coloring is you have to come over here and pull this off and color on your set. So right now everything's out of set. And then I created a state label that just says if the state set, then state. And so that's how I get labels. So right now I don't see any labels. But when I click here, it should update. Oh, I didn't add that action on this sheet. That wasn't too fast, was it? Okay. Not sure why it's not working. Oh, thank you. Okay. So as you noted, this was running on menu. You want to make it on select. Then that's going to do that. There we go. Now it shows up. Okay. All right, so the next one I have is by the map view. You can do, just as you hover over the states, it's just doing that same filtering I showed earlier, filter on state. What's cool about again, with the new set actions is you can go deeper because right now you can only look at one state at a time. If you wanted to look at like a couple states at once, with the set actions, you can update that same state set that I had chosen. You can highlight a bunch of different states at once. And so now what that allows you to do is just quickly see where in like a region, if you just highlight a couple states, where the most profitable city is and where the least profitable city is. I wish there was a little bit more interactivity with the tooltips to where you could then hover over these to see exactly what they are, because this one requires you to know a little bit of your geography to know exactly what states you're looking at. Like I could show you Indiana and nobody know any of those cities, but I know all of them. And then again, that video that I mentioned earlier, they talk about the pros and cons of different types of tooltips within, or graphs that you put within your tooltips. And the map ones is one that they recommend against because it just takes a little bit longer to render when you're working on a server than it does like on your desktop. But the reason I show it is because sometimes people think pie charts are a great thing, but as is a visual best practice, pie charts aren't very good either. So, but you got to know how to make them. So that's why I kind of show it here. But this was also done by, you just have to go one level deeper in the map. So I just have the zoomed in map. Let me click on a state here. I just have a zoomed in map, and I just went to the detail of city, and then you just have it colored by the city there. And that's how that's working behind the scenes. And so now it filters based on state level when you go back there and click. Or it's by the state set here. Anybody have any questions there?
What's the state set you created?
So the state set I created was just from the built-in state. I just went to create set, and I didn't put any values in up front. I just allow whatever you click on the map gets added to that set. And that's what's great about this graphic is you can add multiple states at once, whereas on just the basic map tooltip here, you can click on whatever you want, but it's only going to show whichever one you're hovering over. So like you're only, like when you're in Nevada, you only see the Nevada stuff, not this whole area. Whereas when you're able to add them all to a set, it allows you to look at a couple different ones at once. So that's how that works. Yeah, the set actions are a pretty powerful tool. I'm very excited for that, and that's kind of the reason I waited on my my Super Bowl updating. Was I was wanting the set actions because I could only filter on the way I had the data structured. I could only filter on winners. I couldn't filter on people who just like any appearance for a team. So the set actions are really powerful. Does anybody have any other questions? Yes.
So, kind of a complicated question. First, thank you for showing this. I'm going to try it when I get home.
Yeah.
Have you tried taking a dual-axis dashboard that's a map, so you have the polygonal map, and then on the top of that you have dots? You want to put this in the tooltip of map. Does it make two tooltips, or does it make one? Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I think I heard it.
When you do Viz on Tooltip, does it, when you do dual axis, does it make the Viz on Tooltip for both the axes that are duplicated, or does it make it for like one? Is basically kind of what I'm asking.
So when you do the Viz, you insert a sheet. So it's probably going to insert the entire sheet that you built a visual on. So I'm not sure if you could do part, like when you do the dual axis, I think it's going to show everything that's in that worksheet based off the filters. I don't know if you can specify which one of the two.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Do you have any recommendations as sizing or concerns about sizing within?
Yeah, so within the video within this, it was the session I was at, they mentioned don't go larger than 600 by 600. And so if you see in here, you can adjust the width and the height. And that was one of their recommendations is if you're going larger than 600 by 600, it probably shouldn't be in the tooltip. It should probably be in another worksheet and on a dashboard. So it's just something that's supposed to complement what you're looking at, not really just be like, oh, here's another visual that you can go to. But yeah, thanks. And one thing they also mentioned in that session was whenever you create a dashboard and you have a Viz and tooltip, if you're able to put that graphic in the dashboard and then set it behind the scenes, like where nobody can see it, like put a blank container in front of it to hide it, it processes faster because it's already rendered that graphic on the dashboard. So then when you hover over it in the tooltip, it doesn't have to re-render and run another query. It's just already been done when that dashboard loaded. So that's one way to make it faster.
Do
I was excited that you're willing to go try this when you go home, because that's what happened to me after Tableau conference. And I can show you guys what I did there. It was I decided to make a visual like this. It was based on the airports I visited, because I was like, oh, what's a reason to zoom in on a map? Because it's because I've traveled across the Atlantic, so I was like, okay, that allows for some zooming. And what I've done here is a similar thing as what I showed, where I created a bin for the latitude and longitude. And to do this, you actually have to have a data set that has the latitude and longitude in it, because you can't do any calculations based off of Tableau's built-in latitude and longitude, because the way it works is you just round it off to create a bin. And so when I hover over, let me scroll down here. When I hover over Atlanta, because that's the airport I've been to the most, you can see that, and that's the latitude longitude bin associated to Atlanta. And I threw in airports I hadn't been to just to have some fun. So you could see those in the bin as well. So before we only saw Atlanta, and now when I hover over Atlanta, you'll see some of the other ones that are within that latitude longitude bin specified. And as I mentioned before, with the bins, you can make those parameters. So in here, I gave the ability to change the size of those latitude, longitude bins, whether you can focus more in on a certain particular area. I found that helpful. But as you can see here, as mentioned with the maps, it takes a little bit longer to render. Yeah, so there's all the airports up in that area. And then if you can, with this parameter, you can hide that. Now you're only going to see the 2 I've been to, or 4. So. Any other question? So they don't have to match. What has to happen is whatever you want to filter on has to be in the sheet with the tooltip so that it has the value that it can jump to filter. It's kind of like if you use dashboard filters and you have to have a certain field that you're filtering on in that first worksheet, the source worksheet, you don't have to have it in the target because it does carry it over even if it's not in the target. Yeah. I don't know if there's a best practice on that. I think I've only worked where I've had 2 or 3. I haven't really had a need for more. But then again, I've really only played around with this. I haven't actually put this into our work yet. Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
Last one. This is off the cuff. It looks like that's a different mapping source that you used for that.
Yes, it is. So through my manager, Ken, he showed me a way to get different types of maps. So within Tableau, let me open that back up. I've got these different background types. If you guys are interested in finding that, he has an article out about downloading these maps. It was like you had to create these somewhere in the Tableau repository. There's map sources here. And essentially these were like created text files that allows you to have different types of background maps. So that's where I had those. I think I actually have a freed up USB if people actually want these background maps. Come talk to me after this, and I can do that. Yeah. I'm honestly not sure. He asked what the name of the article was. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I could probably find it over during the break and pass that along to you. think we're good. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, guys.